Hello, welcome to Torah Scribe. My name is Aaron Leibowitz. This is the fourth video so far. The last video we spoke about the Kedusha of the Shem. This video we're going to talk about the Siertut, the lines that you engrave into the cloth before you write, and also the Dyoy, the ink that you use for Sefer Torah to film the mezuzahs. Let's start with the Siertut, with the lines. There's a machlekes between the Rambam and Rabbeinu Tam about the lines. According to the Rambam, there's a halacha l'Moshe Sinai that a mezuzah and a Sefer Torah, each and every ois of the mezuzah and each and every ois of the Sefer Torah must be written with lines. They must be written with Siertut. And according to Rambam, it comes out that if by mistake you skip a word in a Sefer Torah, you're putting it in between the lines, you would, even if it's not the top line, you would need to make new Siertut, a new line for the word that you're sticking in between. Now, as far as tefillin is concerned, according to the Rambam, tefillin doesn't need lines at all. You can write tefillin even l'chatchila without any lines whatsoever. That's the Rambam's opinion. Now, Rabbeinu Tam argues, according to Rabbeinu Tam, there's a halacha l'Moshe Sinai by mezuzah, that each and every ois of the mezuzah needs lines, but tefillin and Sefer Torah don't really need lines except for the top line, because there's a halacha that you're not allowed to write psukim of the Torah without lines. Therefore, the top line you do need for a Sefer Torah and tefillin also. Now, b'diavad, if somebody wrote tefillin like the Rambam and he didn't use any lines at all, even there I think the Rabbeinu Tam would agree that that's kosher. Even though the Gemara does say, according to the way Rabbeinu Tam learns the Gemara, that to write a Sefer Torah or a tefillin without the top line, that yeriyah, that parchment is possible. My understanding of that is that the parchment, before you wrote on it, it's possible. You're not allowed to write on it like this. You have to first make the line. But b'diavad, if you didn't make the line, I don't think it's ma'akev, because the whole reason is because you're not allowed to write psukim without that line. It's a isur l'chatchila. It doesn't passel it b'diavad. Now that's as far as the lines, and the minig asayfim is like a Rabbeinu Tam, that we don't write tefillin without any lines at all. We write at least the top line with Siertut, with lines for tefillin, and also with Sefer Torah. If it's not the top line and you're sticking in a word, you don't make separate Siertut. Now, as far as the ink, as far as the Dyoy is concerned, the Gemara in Masechtas Erev and also in Masechtas Sotah says that you're allowed to add iron, which is called kankantam in the Gemara. You're allowed to add that kankantam, that iron, to Dyoy, to ashes-based ink. That's what Dyoy means. Dyoy means ink based on smoke or ashes. So Rabbeinu Tam learns the Gemara simply. The Gemara says that you could add iron to ashes-based ink, which means if you would make an ink with iron alone without any ashes at all, that's possible. Even if you somehow make some chemical reaction to turn black, it's still possible. Because you didn't use Dyoy, you didn't use ashes-based ink, you used something else, you used iron. That's possible, according to Rabbeinu Tam. The Rambam argues, the Rambam says, I think has two questions on Rabbeinu Tam, and really two questions on the Gemara, which is what Rabbeinu Tam is going on. One question is, how could you say that you could add iron to the ashes-based ink? What are you going to say? It becomes bottle? How could it become bottle? We know that the iron changes the nature of the ink. It makes it non-erasable. So how could it become bottle? That's one question. Another question, if you somehow figure out why it's bottle, how could you do bittul l'chatchila? Seifim are doing this l'chatchila. How could you do it? Therefore, according to the Rambam, the only way to justify what the Seifim are doing is to say that anything that's as black as ashes-based ink is called Dyoy, even if it's not ashes-based ink at all. And based on that, the Rambam says you don't have to use the ashes-based ink either. That's only l'chatchila l'mitzvah and l'muvcher. But meikar adin b'diavad, you could use even any ink that's black, even has no ashes at all. And that's what the Seifim are noyig to use today. Afal Pekain, I would say that the Seifim are using iron for the ink and not ashes, and they somehow do a chemical reaction to make it black. I would only permit that l'chatchila for mezuzah and sefer Torah, because those are things that commonly get wet, and you want to write with an iron-based ink, which is not erasable, so in case it gets wet, the shemus shouldn't be erased. On the other hand, tefillin, there's no reason to worry that it's going to get wet and the shemus are going to be erased, because the parashiyos of the tefillin are inserted into the bottom, which are water resistant, and they probably won't get wet. Therefore, if possible, I would feel it would be a good idea that for tefillin you should write with ashes-based ink without any content, without any iron in it at all, like the lechatchila of the Rambam. Thank you for listening, and if you have any questions on the halachas like that we're learning, please feel free to ask, and I'll see you next time. Thank you.